I listened to this book on Audible while playing Fallout 4, which it just paired so it pairs so perfectly. This post-apocalyptic book with a post-apocalyptic game. So if you're a gamer and you want to listen to an audiobook at the same time, perfect. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jackie. Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Swan Song by Robert R Mccammon, I think is how you say his last name. This is a apocalyptic adventure action horror. There is somebody who talks about wanting to rape somebody, but it doesn't go through the action. It also talks about sex, but it doesn't go into a detailed version of it. It just says, like, you know, this person sleeps with this other person, but it doesn't talk about it in detail. I would say it's not a book for younger readers. If you're an older teen or young adult, then this would probably be okay for you, but there's still gruesome scenes in here. In this book, you follow several different point of views, or you follow several different people. It's different than some other books I have read. In this one, in one single chapter, it will rotate between 3 different people's point of views throughout and they're in different places throughout the country and at different times. So it'll talk about like Roland and like his perspective and what's going on with him. And then within the next sentence, it'll talk about another character and what's going on with them. So initially it was not, I don't want to say confusing, but like a little bit confusing because of that transition, but you quickly catch on to that. So it wasn't a super duper big deal. One of our characters' names is Swan. She is a young girl who comes from a dysfunctional home or a broken home, however you want to phrase it. But her mom goes from guy to guy, place to place. She says that Swan's dad is a famous rock star, but never gives her a name. She is just breaking up with one of her many boyfriends, throwing Swan in a car and leaving in the beginning of the book. Swan has a gift. She has a green thumb, which means that she is very good at growing plants and keeping plants alive, unlike me. Josh is a professional wrestler. He is a just ginormous mountain of a man who goes from city to city or town to town and does these professional wrestling shows. And he just finished one and he's headed to the next one in a different state. And this is where he runs into Swan. Sister is legitimately crazy, or at least when I was reading it or listening to it, I thought of her as someone who was just off her rocker. She lives in New York and she's homeless. She gets into fights with people and she's just got like a potty mouth. She wears a crucifix around her neck. So she is religious and she does believe, but she's just like out there. Roland is a young boy. He's between 13 and 15 years old. He is in the car with his parents driving to a mountain because in this specific mountain there is a bunker inside, and his dad got like some sort of warning or intuition that bombs were going to start dropping and like World War III was going to happen. So he packed up his family and rushed to get to this mountain base. On the way there, Roland is in the back seat and he's just like, I wonder what it would be like if I just shot my parents in the back of the head. So it's like right away, you know, something is not right with Roland. Roland is kind of crazy and just like mentally unstable and delusional. And as you go throughout the story, you find more and more just how delusional he is. Another character's name is Colonel. Colonel works at the mountain base. He did not build it. He did not create it. He is just the face and the poster boy for the bunker. He was a prisoner of war, and he also suffers from delusions. Like, he has this, I think it's his dad, but that's a personal opinion. I think it's his dad that comes to him in his delusions and tells him that he's like weak and a crybaby and just all these negative things. And like in the colonel's mind, this is like his motivation to be stronger, be tougher, push on. But it's not. Like, it's the voice in his head, and he sees this guy, like he sees him. It's just not good. But the colonel was actually planning on quitting this bunker and leaving because he keeps contacting the brothers who built the bunker and has been like, there's leaks in here, there's foundation issues, like it's not safe, like you guys need to come and fix this. And they're like, oh no, it's fine, we don't need to fix it, it's all good, there's no issues. Right, little foreshadowing going on in there. The other character that you kind of see is, they call him, he's the bad guy. He's the man of many faces. He's kind of like known as a priest for a little bit. He calls himself friend at the end of the book, even though he's not a friend. He's just bad. But he is magical in he has evil powers, magical powers, because he can make flies come out of his mouth and they will go and be spies for him and then come back and relay information that they gathered. He also can get a third eye in the middle of his forehead. He can change his face. So you might see him in New York and he might look a specific way, and then see him in Indiana and he'll look completely different. So he's a man of many faces. He can change his face. I'm going to try and explain the next part without giving too much information away. The audiobook is 30 hours though, and the book itself has to be like ginormous. So even if I do give what you feel like is a lot away, it's probably not that much just because of how big the book is. But what I'm going to discuss is at least part of the first half of the book, and I won't dabble with anything beyond that point, okay? In the beginning, like I said, Swan and Josh, which is the little girl and the wrestling guy, they're out in the country by all these kind of cornfields or this farmland when the bombs start to drop. Again, United States and Russia are going to war with each other, and our president makes the executive decision that it is time to strike back. So missiles start launching out of the cornfields, and where they are, an old man who runs the gas station gets Josh, Swan, and Swan's mother and himself into this bunker, but they all take radiation damage from the blast. And because of how big the blast is, they actually get buried. So all like the dirt and the corn and all the crap piles up on what was the cellar door. So essentially they're trapped down in this makeshift bunker, which isn't a legitimate bunker. It's not the 12 inches of cement that you're supposed to have. It's just dirt. So there's dirt all around them in this little enclosed spot. Sister is in New York City when the bombs drop. She was hiding kind of underground to sleep in what she considered a safe place, and she wakes up to just this roaring fire that's coming down the tunnel. She is lucky enough to like jump down in the sewer system or like the water system to escape, but it was a very close call. When she escapes from the rubble, she comes across a man that she continues to travel with. Before they leave New York City, because he wants to go to Detroit to try and find his wife, they find this glass crystal object that has a bunch of emeralds and diamonds and amethyst. It's just this huge ball of precious gems. And when Sister touches it, it lights up and it starts radiating this beautiful light with in beat with her heart. And when she gives it to her companion to hold, it changes and it starts going in like with his heartbeat and reflecting like a different kind of color light. So she knows it's something special and magical, and she keeps it, and they go on their way. Sister ends up meeting the bad man like 2 times before they can get into the clear or get like out of New York State. So there are interactions with him, and he's a bad guy, right? When he's the author does a really good job at making like the bad guys bad and the good guys good, even though the good guys do have moments where, you know, they hesitate, they question if they're making the right choice, or like, should I kill this person to put them out of their misery? And then they feel bad because it's like, no, I shouldn't be thinking that, like I'm supposed to protect this person. Like, that was really crappy of me to think about that. But they're thinking about it as like, is this the best thing to do? But they don't do it. So they have just like that inner turmoil, but everybody plays a really important role in the story. So Sister and her buddy are going off to Detroit at this time, and then Roland, who's the 13-year-old boy, and the colonel, when they're in the mountain bunker, and they get a notification that bombs are starting to fall. When this happens, because the integrity of the bunker has been compromised and no one has come to fix it and repair it, it caves in. Tons of people die because it's not like an empty bunker. People will go and live there for a week or a weekend and stay there. Like it sounds like there's quite like 30 plus families that live in this bunker system and employees that live here. So there's a lot of people who die when this happens, when the foundation starts to collapse or the bunker collapses in certain areas. So the colonel and Roland have certain interactions that bond them together. Again, I don't want to give too much away. Bond them together. Roland goes through this delusion that, and again, he's young, and when you go through a traumatic situation, sometimes your brain does certain things to help you survive and to process this or process traumatic things. So Roland goes and turns this into a game. In his mind, he's like, I'm a king's knight, the colonel's my king, and I have to do everything he tells me to. I have to protect him and like get us out of here. Like, I have to follow him until the end of time, basically, because I'm a king's knight. Again, the colonel's delusional too. He sees this person from his past, or like his dark man or his whatever. So they're both delusional together, going out into the world. I think Swan and Josh are stuck underground for like 20 or 30 days before they're able to get out. And once they get out, it's a nuclear wasteland. It's like a dust bowl and everything's dead and it's cloudy and there's no sunlight and it sucks. They go just walking in a direction. He lets Swan pick. Mind you, Swan's like 7 or 8. He lets Swan pick the direction, and Swan decides to go in the direction where the wind is at her back, which as an adult, you're like, that makes sense, but I'm not sure if a child that young would make that choice. Like, if they would be that logical to make that choice. I mean, I have kids, but I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's a decision that they, or something that they would think through and process in order to do that. I think they'd just be like, left. But and it explains it that way. So Swan's intelligent. She's not dumb. So she picks the direction they go. They, as they travel, they meet good people, they meet bad people, just like as Sister travels, they come across groups of people. Sometimes they come across bad people, sometimes they come across good people. Roland and Colonel, Colonel just wants to lead an army. So after he and Roland escape the mountain, his goal is to like create an army, get as much power as he can, because those Russians are gonna be over here any minute and we're gonna have to battle them. So he just wants to conquer, and Roland is just following because he's a king's knight. So in this book, there are literally insane people who are doing some real crazy things. It's the apocalypse, so there's no more rules, and they just go ham. Not only is there these insane people, there's other people that are like raiders, and then there's childlike gangs, there's strangely mutated people as well. As you go along in the chapters, it talks about people who were disfigured from the radiation, which is normal, but they start acting less and less human, which makes sense because your humanity, like if you don't make good humane choices, your humanity tends to taper off, right? So it's these people who have lost a lot of their humanity and they act more like animals, but they're not ghouls, they're not zombies or anything like that. They're just like feral humans, but they are still intelligent. On top of that, most people have these weird growths growing on them. So originally they're like moles or really hard calluses, but then they start to spread all over people's faces, and they're hard as bark. And people, I'm not gonna say what characters, but some people have where they can only see out of one eye, or that they can only, like, their eyes are like really tiny slits and they have a hard time seeing. Their noses might close off because of these growths on their face or their body, so they can't breathe out their nose, or it makes their mouths really tight and it's hard for them to speak. So on top of all this mental angst that's going on, physically people are affected by these growths and issues as well. There is a 7-year gap in part of the book, so you have like, there is a 7-year gap in here as well. So you have like your first book, or not your first book, but you have like your first half, and then a 7-year gap, and then it picks back up with all the characters, and it kind of just briefly talks about what they have been doing the last 7 years, and then it finishes out the story. To me, this book was very well written. I really enjoyed all the characters. I really enjoyed the good characters. I really enjoyed the bad characters. I enjoyed the characters who had internal turmoil, whether they were doing the right thing or not. I always have hope that the characters who are not doing good stuff, like maybe towards, the end, that they'll switch, or they'll make better choices along the way. Like, you never know. And there's a lot of secondary characters in here I didn't touch base on. Again, though, this book is massive, so it's kind of hard to sit there and pick out like 5 or 6 different side characters that come and go. So I'm not going to bother with that. I just would recommend that you have a listen, you take a read. This is probably one of my top 5 or top 10 favorite books of the year I've read so far. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. If you have any questions, like you feel like I didn't answer enough of, and you want to ask a question about the book, please put it in the comments below and I'll answer your question, with hopefully without giving away too many spoilers, unless you want a spoiler, and like maybe I'll give you a little spoiler. Maybe not, I don't know. But again, appreciate you watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye everyone.